Right, here we are, guys. Fourth and Gold, episode 7. Great week 6. Let's get straight started into this week's episode. Going with Step It Up. Paul, do you want to give us your Step It Up for week 6?
Yeah, my step up this week is the Los Angeles Chargers defense, and more specifically, their coaching staff. Um, Watching the game back this last week against the Cowboys, the 49ers showed you how to play this Cowboys team. Be aggressive, be in their face, and make life difficult for them. The Chargers have apparently a defensive minded head coach in Brandon Staley. And watching the game back, they got the Cowboys in quite a few difficult spots, third and longs. And time after time, the Cowboys were converting these third and longs. And they were behind the chains, the Cowboys. And specifically, CeeDee Lamb was just gashing the Chargers. Now, the Chargers were just playing off coverage, just soft, didn't press any of the Cowboys receivers. And CeeDee Lamb, 7 catches for over 100 yards. You know, what's that averaging? He's averaging like nearly 20 yards per catch. Dak Prescott, the week previously against the 49ers, showed you that if you pressure him, make life difficult for him, confuse him a little bit in coverages, he's susceptible to throw the odd pick and make the game easier for you. Dak sat back there and threw for over 200 yards with a touchdown and, crucially, no picks. The Chargers historically, they do this. They find ways to lose a game. But I think that game was actually there for them. They just had to be aggressive and just pressure Dallas. We know what happens when you pressure Dallas. They tend to crumble. But you know who crumbles even bigger and better than Dallas would be the Chargers. Their whole coaching staff, specifically their head coach, needs to put them in a better situation, and they need to step it up. The LA Chargers coaching staff, and specifically their D.
Nice one. Thanks for that, Paul. So my Step It Up for this week is the Philadelphia Eagles offense, but mostly Jalen Hurts. I've been defending him a little bit this season. I know both of you have said you've not seen enough from him, and I've been going along the lines of he's getting the wins. As long as he's getting the wins and just gradually improving, I'm okay with that. And I thought his performance against the Rams was continuing to step up, and I thought we were going to see the next step at the weekend. And after the first drive, I was still thinking that. Made some good plays. One play he made right at the beginning, I think it was to AJ Brown, where he literally was holding off one defender with his left arm and he threw it down the line. And yeah, I was like, okay, I'm liking how this game's going. Then to get shut out in the second half. Admittedly, the field goal, okay, that's not down to him. There's a 36-yard field goal that was missed. But still, he got shut out. In the second half, they had 155 yards of total offense, the Eagles. Now, I give the Jets defense credit. That the defense played lights out. That was the defense that I think most of us expected from the beginning of the year. And we've seen glimmers of it so far, but not that much. But yeah, with all the possessions, they went punt, interception, missed field goal, interception, turnover on downs. That's not good enough for a team that were 5-0 leading in. They hadn't really been under a lot of pressure. And that final drive, or the second to last drive, both of them, second to last drive, he made some plays. I was like, hey, here we go. All right, he's going to get through, at least get 3 points on the board. and then you look, Jets have used all their timeouts. It's 2nd and 9, 2 minute coming out of the 2-minute warning. The logical thing to do is you run the ball. If you really want to have an opportunity of throwing it, then do an RPO and just take the sack if you need to. Don't throw the pick. If you run that ball, even if you get sacked, it could have actually helped in terms of the punter having a bit more room. The Jets get the ball probably around the 10, maybe even inside the 10, with 1 minute and 10 seconds and no timeouts. Based off of what I'd seen in their last 2 possessions, they weren't going to be getting 3 points, which is all they would have needed. You just can't throw that pick. I don't know what he saw there. The second half, I just was not impressed with Hurts. God. And based off of that, he's got to step it up. I've given him a pass because they got the 5 wins and didn't come to fruition last week. And I'm only looking at him. The defense stepped up in that second half. They made some big stops. But what can you do? What can you do? Jalen Hurts, you need to step it up. Jay, what about your step it up for week 6?
Jalen Hurts. I praised him last week. One of the rare weeks that I've praised him, because this week just proved again, don't care what anyone says, this is not a $52.5 million quarterback. No way, no how am I paying even half of that, to be honest, for this production. That pick was basically a pick 6, and that was a horrible decision in the most critical moment of the game. No one's gonna take, any swipe at you if you take a sack there. But what you saw there, I don't know what kind of decision that is. And all we keep hearing is Jalen Hurts is a winner. Jalen Hurts is 22-2 in his last 24 games. But I'm starting to get Jimmy Garoppolo vibes here with the 49ers. Jalen Hurts plays well, they win. Jalen Hurts doesn't play well, most weeks they're going to win. They're not winning because of Jalen Hurts. They're winning because of the roster. I'm not going to say they're winning in spite of him. It's not quite to that degree like it was with Garoppolo with the 49ers. But it's not because of him like most weeks. Let's face it. He makes the odd play, but $52.5 million. Are we really paying that for the odd play? Are we really paying that just for leadership? I mean, there's got to be more than this for $52.5 million per year. We're talking about Mahomes money. We're talking about, Burrow money, like Josh Allen money. Like, this is not a quarterback that deserves this amount of money based on the performances I'm seeing. And there's something going on with this offense. Like, I know that, it feels like every week we kind of say, well, how great could this team be if they actually get to, play at their maximum? But are they going to get there? They've got to get there at some point. We're in week 7 now. Like, they've got to show that they can get there.
Yeah.
Plenty of weeks to do that. But plenty to step up on for Jalen Hurts.
And that O-line, it's supposed to be so formidable. But the first 2 runs, they got 1 yard and then a run for no gain. That's where you want your supposedly strength of the team to step up. They should have done 3 quarterback sneaks. They might have got 10 yards. Even if they'd done 4, they probably would have. Yeah, I agree. Cool. Good stuff. So, going on to performance of the week. Paul, what's your performance of week 6?
Surprising, at least for myself. I'm going with Jared Goff of the quarterback for the Detroit Lions. He is, spoiler alert, he's made it into my top 5 quarterbacks based on not just this week. It'd be unfair just to say it's this week. Over the last 17 games, and I say 17 because that's now a season, he's 13-4 as the starter. This is a guy who the Rams kicked to the curb, sent him packaged to Detroit, which apparently is like the wilderness. Used to be like the Siberia of the NFL. Quarterbacks go to die there. And they packaged him. They wanted to get rid of him so badly. They packaged him with a first round. Was it 1 or 2 first round picks? Anyway, he was gift wrapped and sent to the Lions. Now, this last week, he played against the Bucs, and the Bucs do have one main strength, and that's their D. They've got a very, very stingy D. And during that game as well, my friend Big Dave Montgomery went down. Earlier in the season, the rookie Gibbs is out. So they were running plays with Craig Reynolds, who had 15 yards on 10 carries on the ground. This game was all on Jared Goff, and he controlled the game. He threw for 350, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He's currently on pace this year for 4,500 yards, which is not elite, because that you have 5,000 yard seasons now from quarterbacks. But if you give me an over-under on Jared Goff before the start of the season, I am not taking 4,500 yards. No way. I couldn't be more impressed with him. By the way, the Lions have not a ridiculously, admittedly this week they go to Baltimore, which is a huge game. But after that, they play in a dome. They've got a lot of games indoors, nice conditions. Their road games on the road at Chicago. Well, that's not what it used to. That's not a huge, tough test. That's more about the conditions and what the Bears are going to bring. And they put it this way. The Lions have a nicer schedule upcoming than the Eagles and the 49ers. Like, if they can somehow come out of Baltimore this week with a win, then don't be surprised if the Lions could potentially take the 1 seed just based on their schedule. Because the Niners are going to have to play the Seahawks twice and the Eagles on the road. The Eagles are going to have to play the Niners. The Eagles are going to have to play the Cowboys twice. Cowboys could take a game off the Eagles. So while those two teams beat each other up, Detroit, look at their division. They play in a dome. If they win in Baltimore, that could be my hot take for the rest of the year. If they win in Baltimore this week, Detroit could get the number 1 seed. Because this week, massive credit to Jared Goff. The running game went down. Running game went nowhere. He took the team on his shoulders and won that game in Tampa on the road, ruined the Tampa with their orange uniform special event game, ruined it for them. Yeah, Jared Goff, well done.
Good stuff. So my performance of the week, this is the second time they've been in my performance of the week this year. It's got to be the Cleveland D. Last time it was Cleveland D and Myles Garrett included, highlighted there. But man, where to start? So first of all, they're playing probably the scariest team in the NFL. When you go into week 6, the one team that no one wants to play because you can quickly get embarrassed, as most teams have found out when they played the 49ers. Now, the 49ers have put up 30 points, 30 points, 30 points, 35 and 42. Then they come in to Cleveland against a backup quarterback, and I'm thinking this could be quite painful for the Cleveland. I really didn't see this being a close game. I thought if Watson was playing, I thought it could have been a close game. And they end up holding them to 17 points. Now, you look at that D, they held Brock Purdy to 125 passing yards. The leading rusher was on 43 yards. Yes, McCaffrey went out, so that might be a little bit skewed. Like I said, they put up 17 points, but 7 points of that was basically down to the offense. throwing that pick. The 49ers got the ball from their own 8-yard line or from the Browns' 8-yard line. So you could even put an argument, okay, well, take that away. The defense held them to 10 points. For the first time, I think this year, the 49ers had to punt 6 times in the game. There was another interception as well, wasn't there, actually, thinking about it, on the Cleveland offense. They returned it to the Cleveland 26 or 36, or whatever it was. The D is elite. And I still don't think many people are giving them the credit this D deserves. Like, you look at where we've been this year, after 2 weeks, myself included in this, everyone's singing the praise of Dallas defense. Defense is scary, amazing. Everyone's been singing the praise of 49ers defense. Not many people, or not that I've heard anyway, has been talking about the Cleveland defense. Now, they're on a historic pace here. Like, the points allowed, and even with PJ Tucker as their quarterback, they beat, for me, still the best team in football. Now, I will caveat that they did miss a short field goal to finish, and either way, that's with their backup quarterback, and they didn't get it, so it doesn't matter. Although, going off topic, that for me is a big difference between Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy already. It's the first time I've seen Purdy have to produce, and he did put together a game-winning drive. Unfortunately, the kicker missed, what was it, 27-yard field goal? Something, or it wasn't a long one. So I'm not putting that on Brock. Against that defense, he stood up to it. But, man, for any team, this week you've got the Colts. I feel sorry. Gardner Minshew, you're going to get hurt. This is just such a stingy defense, and I'm looking forward. It's what I love watching. All going back to the 49ers Seattle days back 10 plus years ago, is solid defenses, and this defense is going to be a force to be reckoned with, and it's going to keep them in a lot of games. So yeah, that's my performance of the week. And one last thing I want to add to that. For the first time, Jay, you might know this better than me, being a 49ers fan. For the first time, I saw a defensive end throw Trent Williams like he was a high school player. Now, Trent Williams, I think he'd had his injury at that point. So, I'll give him a slight pass on that. But Myles Garrett, bet you he had a drug test again at the end of that game. But I've never seen anyone treat Trent Williams like that. Well, if you haven't seen it, Google it. It's an impressive play. But that's my performance of the week. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, so Cleveland's defense were very unlucky to not be my performance of the week. And I just want to add a couple of very quick points on that. Cleveland's defense is allowing 200 yards total per game. Total. They currently sit as, and I'm going to keep repeating this statement as I have done for the last 2 weeks. They are currently 5th in points allowed, but in reality, they are number 1. If I'm the Cleveland's defense this week, I am calling a team meeting to say, offense, stop giving away points. Just punt the ball and we will do the rest. Because the offense is giving up too many points. Like you said, Rob, that pick in the fourth quarter was basically a pick 6. You know, I'm not going to hold that against the defense when they're starting at the 8-yard line. The 49ers ran it in on the first play. I can't hold that against them. But yeah, they are legit right now. Let's see if it continues. I think, though, what we're seeing is the benefit of adding Zadarius Smith on the other side. Yeah. Because while he's not all pro level, he's good enough where you have to account for him. And what does that mean? We've got Myles Garrett on the other side doing hezzies like he's playing basketball before he's rushing the quarterback. So they were very unlucky not to be my performance of the week. This is going to be quick because I can't believe I'm saying it, but my performance of the week was Jared Goff. I'm going to try not to repeat what Paul has said, but I agree with everything that you did say, Paul. What can I add? I mean, this is a completely different quarterback to what we saw with the Rams, who was kind of babied in a way. You know, McVay, to his credit, got what he could get out of him at that point of his life. I think it was like, right, this is the play you're going to throw to X, okay? And if it's not there, throw it away. We're seeing there's just been a lot of growth here in Detroit. I mean, this isn't one read Jared Goff. He's going through progressions. He's throwing sidearms. Like, he's throwing tight windows in this game. There was a lot of third downs where he was converting, and it was like, ooh, that was tight. You know, old, or shall we say young Jared Goff would not have been able to have completed a lot of these passes. And then now they've added Jameson Williams back. I mean, he can throw the deep ball, can't he? I mean, that was a beautiful deep throw to Williams. Great catch as well, but he still had to make the throw. Goff is, this is a great system to be in, but the difference between him and Jalen Hurts right now is that he's thriving in this system. He's running this system. He's not a part of it. He kind of is the system. So, yeah, very intrigued to see how the rest of this season goes for Jared Goff. Performance of the week.
Love it. Good stuff. Okay, so that's the performance and step it up done. Let's go now to the top 5 quarterbacks through week 6. Paul, want to give us your top 5?
Yeah, just quickly run through what I had last week. Herbert 5, Purdy 4, Tua 3, Allen 2, and Mahomes number 1. This week, I do give credit to Purdy for playing against that D, and yeah, he put them in a position to win the game. So he did still, say he lost the game. The San Francisco 49ers lost the game, but he drops to number 5 based on the performance of my new friend Jared Goff, who appears for the first time in the top 5 quarterbacks at number 4. I won't go over what I said before and what Jay said. I agree with everything that Jay said as well about Jared Goff. Just couldn't be more impressed so far. Interesting this week, though, going to Baltimore potentially without a running game on the road against that Ravens D. That'll be interesting if he can stay at number 4 or even rise. If he wins in Baltimore, then what does he have to do? What's remaining for him to prove to us that he is at that level of like top 2 or 3 in the league? Tua, number 3. Miami's offense is just ridiculous. Tyreek Hill's having a lot of fun. NFL don't like him having fun. Yeah, Tua. It's going to be interesting moving forward with Tua, but at the minute, especially at home in Miami in the conditions, he's having a lot of fun. Might need to calm down, not be so aggressive. But yeah, he's number 3. I'm going to still keep Josh Allen at number 2, just based on I don't really think it's his fault that the Bills are not, they're winning games, but they're not winning games in an impressive fashion like they should. He needs some help. He needs a running game, like I've said before. It's not on Josh Allen. He is. If you were going to build a quarterback in the lab, you'd probably build Josh Allen physically. He's just an absolute monster.
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes, number 1, doing what is necessary in the moment, beats the bad teams, wins games like the Jets game where he doesn't play well, very situationally aware, doesn't have the help that he potentially needs at receiver, playing in a new sort of Chiefs team, and they're still potentially right up there as the best team in the league. Patrick Mahomes is my number 1.
Okay, so with my top 5 quarterbacks, I've gone with starting at number 5. Purdy has dropped out. Top 5 quarterbacks. I put him in because he'd done the job for 5 weeks. He only threw for 125 yards last week, and even though he was against an elite D, he's dropped 1 spot. He's number 6 for me this week. But my number 5 is Lamar Jackson, and I was to and fro whether to have Brock Purdy as my number 5 or number 6. But that first half from Lamar was impressive in London. Second half, not as impressive, but he'd done enough where he's showing me that he's still worthy of a top 5 pick. I still have a lot of questions that I need to see answered. I need to see him have a good game. Too many times this year as he's had a good quarter, a good half, but not a full game. Number 4 is Jared Goff. I'm only going to be repeating. You both had him as your performance of the week. Paul's already mentioned, obviously, in his top 5. So there's not really much more to add on that. But he's a guy that we've doubted time and time again, for justifiably so as well. But one thing I remember from seeing Hard Knocks when he was in his rookie year, he missed a lot of throws. He was quite raw, but he was always working. He was always out there wanting to get the reps in, and that's clearly paying off over time. Just think he's in the perfect setup. That team is so well balanced, got great coaches, good defense, good offense, and everything seems to be clicking now. So yeah, Jared Goff has to be in my top 5. Number 3, again, this one I wasn't sure who to pick, but I've gone with Tua. The reason Tua is my number 3 and not number 2 is I still have question marks about Tua in the big games. When Tyreek Hill is double covered, can he do it to other players on that offense? Will he be able to do it in places outside of Miami where it's not a nice 28 degrees, 30 degrees? I'm not sure. But he produced again. What he put up about 40. Oh, I don't think it was 42. There or thereabouts. I can't remember when he came out of the game, but he put together after the first 2 drives being quite mediocre, to say the least. 2 3 and outs. Was getting a bit worried, but came through. With Tyreek Hill, though, I think most quarterbacks are going to look pretty good. Number 2 is Josh Allen. I had him at 3 originally, but then I was like, I can't put him at number 3 due to him not having the normal Josh Allen type season that we would expect this year, and then have Mahomes at number 1, who hasn't had the normal Mahomes type season we would expect this year. So I've got to be quite fair and judge them both the same way. So I've gone with Allen number 2 because he's winning. Even though that is the only way they can win, they've got no running game whatsoever. So every team that they play, every D that they come up against, knows that they need to stop Allen, and he's still finding ways to get the win. They're 4-2, but there's still a lot more to be seen, and I'm sure he'll get there in the end. Mahomes is number 1. It's probably one of his best performances of actually numbers wise maybe, but that's the Denver defense. But in terms of the overall performance, he threw a horrible pick that I didn't like. But it was sort of a game where Denver was like, right, how can we lose this game? They could have made more plays than what they did. But again, as I said about Jalen Hurts through the first 5 weeks, he's getting the wins. After week 1, the Chiefs are now 5 wins on the spin. Not always pretty, but his game management, everything is just, the same thing week after week. But for me, he's number 1. I want him over any other quarterback in the league, and it's not even a question. So that's my top 5. What about you, Jay?
Yeah, so my top 5 is solely based on these 6 weeks. So last week I had Purdy at 5, Herbert at 4, Tua at 3, Allen at 2, Mahomes at 1. Yeah. Number 5, making a return to the top 5, is my man CJ Stroud, aka CJ Strikes, because all this man does is throws lasers downfield. Now, you could look at his game and say, well, he threw for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, had his first interception, was quite an ugly interception very early in the game. But, you know, this Saints defense is pretty good. It's very seasoned, you know. And in a kind of defensive struggle type of game, what do you need? You need big plays. And so maybe his completion percentage was around the 50% mark. But I'm telling you, every one of those completions was a big play. And he seems to have built an instant bond with Nico Collins, who wasn't drafted this year. I'd never heard of him. He was drafted 2 or 3 years ago. I just think that over the course of the 6 weeks, given the degree of difficulty that he's in, I think he's played very well. And we're not seeing check down Charlie here. We're seeing someone that is aggressive, ready to throw it downfield, making the right reads most of the time, protecting the football most of the time, which is very important when you're in a team like the Texans. So yeah, he goes to number 5. Number 4, this will be very quick. It seems it's a full house at number 4. It's Jared Goff. I think we've said enough. He's playing his best football, looking much more complete, much more seasoned. I think the fact that he got the opportunity to sit under Dan Campbell, where there's no passengers allowed here, there's only he saw that challenge and he's risen to it. So his 6 games, very good. He threw 1 ugly pick 6 in these 6 weeks against the Seahawks, the old Jared Goff. But it's, you know, I can't hold that against him. For the most part, new Jared Goff is really damn good. At 3, it's still Tua. And the only reason it's, I mean, if you look to sort of MVP based off of 6 weeks, he'd probably be the front runner in a way based on, you know, performance. MVP is always about stats. But they've had a lot of gimmies really in the last few weeks. And I just think the degree of difficulty for the 2 above him is a lot greater than, you know, his situation, if you like. But he gets an opportunity this week. If he has a great performance this week, he has a true opportunity to rise going into Philadelphia. So he's at 3. At number 2, it is, as I will say, throws like Mahomes, runs like Lamar. It's Josh Allen. You know, this is still the ultimate one-man show. And that is to a fault with the Bills. They ride him too hard. He's, as Paul said, he's got to get some help. They lost Damian Harris this week. Apparently Leonard Fournette is coming to town for a little workout. But I just think what we've seen with Allen is when he's at his best, I mean, that really does rival Mahomes, I think, when he's at his absolute best. But it's hard to beat your best in this situation, I think. I think there's a lot of work for the Bills to do. They got very, very lucky to win this game last Sunday night. I don't know how the holding was not seen on that second play. I mean, maybe the NFL have decided we're not allowed to call holding twice in a row. But they were very lucky to win that game, I thought. And yeah, at number 1, Mahomes stays at number 1. Overall, you know, it's been what we keep seeing. They're getting the job done. If the Chiefs can figure it out, because the offense really does need to figure it out, this could be another Super Bowl caliber year for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're starting to lean the same way that we're leaning with Josh Allen, in that we're riding Mahomes a little too hard. Everything is a little bit too difficult, or a bit of, there's got to be something in this offense that comes easy for Mahomes, because I feel like we're seeing too much at the moment. Mahomes having to ad-lib, Mahomes having to get the job done. We're having to punt a bit more than we used to seeing with the Chiefs, and the defense is playing well. But when it comes to the playoffs, I think that they're going to have to be better than this. It can't just be all on Mahomes. But as of now, Mahomes number one.
Good stuff. So that's our top 5 quarterbacks through week 6. Now, top 5 teams. Paul, do you want to kick us off with your top 5 teams of the week?
Yeah, so I'll start with the run through of who I had last week. I had from 5 to 1 in that order: Miami, Buffalo, Kansas City, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. This week, number 5, making their first appearance, is the Detroit Lions. Now, I actually thought and considered moving them higher based on the work I did researching what Jared Goff has been up to, because when you look into this team, you can't be much more impressed with what they've done so far. They went into Kansas City opening night, beat the world champions, and they're 1 pick 6 away from being undefeated so far. So Detroit, number 5. We'll see what happens between now and the rest of the season. But yeah, Detroit, I think they've got a big future this year. So I've got them at number 5. Miami, number 4. Now, I know they lost to the Bills, but the Bills just keep showing me how unbalanced they are. And Miami, I think, are a scary team when everything clicks. They're getting Jalen Ramsey back very, very soon. That's, I think, a big addition, because the weakness of this team is their D. So if they can somehow tighten up the D, then Miami are just a scary team going forward. Number 3. Now, running game and defense travels, plays well in the playoffs, plays well in January and February. So I've got Philadelphia at number 3, dropping from number 2. Like I keep saying, we haven't seen the best of this team. And I give massive weight to O-line, D-line. They've got still probably the best O-line in the league. And the D-line's just nasty. Jalen Hurts, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's not going to play that bad a game this week. And he can't play it this week against the Dolphins, because the Dolphins are going to score more points than the Jets. So, yeah, that's a titanic game. Philadelphia and Miami. We're going to learn a lot about both conferences, I think, like AFC and NFC. So, yeah, Philadelphia, just based on, I'm not overreacting. They've still got an O-line, a D-line, and a running game. The Jets do have a good defense, and they kind of shut down that running game. I don't think many teams are going to be able to shut down that Philadelphia running game. So they're at number 3. Kansas City and number 2. So you see, I'm not overreacting to San Francisco and last week against Cleveland. Kansas are just quietly doing what is needed and expected. They are winning games. You don't win the Super Bowl in week 6. They're just stacking wins. And they're in a bit of a cakewalk division. They play the Chargers at home this week. If they beat the Chargers, can we call that division finished? I think we can call it division finished already, but yeah, I mean,
yes.
division over. So immediately, home game, in the playoffs. Like, yeah, Kansas City number 2, because I think that San Francisco, despite everything that could go wrong, did go wrong in Cleveland this past week. They were tested and they had a kick to win the game. So you're not going to go undefeated in this league. Nobody goes undefeated in this league. I think that was their game. That was their game to lose, where everything kind of went against them. The conditions, the injuries. Cleveland had, and credit to Cleveland, they had a great game plan. I didn't give enough credit to Cleveland's D and their defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, but apparently he has had great success against Shanahan in the past and he kind of drew it up for the rest of the league. Press the wide receivers on the outside. And so press the wide receivers, take away the middle of the field with your linebackers and your safeties, play your corners inside a little bit, and have your D-line take away the running game. So what you're saying is, if you're good enough to beat us, Brock, then you have to throw it down the field on the outside. So you have to have the arm strength and the receivers to beat us deep, like a kind of Miami Tua or a Mahomes back in the day with Tyreek Hill, that kind of offense. In the conditions there, that wasn't going to work. And yeah, but I think it was the perfect storm, the perfect conditions and everything to beat San Francisco. I don't see that happening for a little while again. So San Francisco is still my top team in the NFL.
Awesome. So going on to my top 5, last week I had the Dolphins number 5, Bills 4, Chiefs 3, Eagles 2, 49ers 1. This week, the Dolphins have dropped out of my top 5. And I was thinking, shall I or shan't I? A little bit like with my number 6 quarterback. But I looked at the schedule and I'm looking at it and I'm seeing, right, so they played the LA Chargers week 1, beat them 36-34. They then beat the New England Patriots, that we now realize are not a very good football team, beat them 24-17. They then played the Denver Broncos 70-20. Their one loss was against the Buffalo Bills, when they got annihilated. Then they beat the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers. When I look at them wins, none of them impress me. The Chargers, New England, Denver, Giants, and Carolina. There's not many of the worst teams in the NFL that aren't on that list. So they've had a great schedule to start the year. So that is why they're not in my top 5. I've gone with the Bills as my number 5, purely because I have to put them ahead of the Dolphins, because they annihilated the Dolphins. It wasn't a close game. They smashed them. And I feel that if they play again, they will beat them again, especially as it will be later in the year when the weather will be a little bit different. And I have huge concerns about Tua in the cold. Number 4 is the Detroit Lions. I've liked them from week 1. I've been told over and over again, it's the Lions. They won't be doing good. They're one of the best balanced teams in the NFL. I love everything about them. They play hard. It's almost like that, a Cinderella story. Like, they've been so bad for so long. I think even if you're not, a bit like Leicester when they won the league, if it's not your team that they're playing, you're backing. You want the Lions to win, because we all remember them with Megatron. We all remember them, how bad they've been in previous years. You only have to go back this time last year, at the beginning of last year. I'm pretty certain they were calling for his head, right? They had a pretty bad start, and the year before that, people were saying he's got to be gone. They stuck with him. This team can beat you in many different ways. They'll run the ball against you. Goff has shown that he can throw it, and the D can step up. So, and they're aggressive. Campbell loves going for it. And yeah, I like watching that. I don't think there's not one team in the NFL that will look forward to playing this Lions team. It's a team that no one wants to play right now. So I've gone with them at number 4. Number 3, I've gone with the Eagles. A bit like what you said, Paul. I don't want to get too carried away based off of one result. Yes, I have a lot of questions that I want to see answered this week. It's a great matchup for the Eagles to respond from last week's performance. And when you think about it, their performance is most of the season so far. Let's see how they do against supposedly another elite team, another 5-1 team. Will they pull it off? I think they will, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be that one of them occasions, a bit like with the Cowboys when they lost to the Cardinals. Like, you don't really want to play a team like the 49ers or the Eagles after they come off their first loss, because they're probably going to come back and, well, embarrass whoever they play next, which I am certain will happen with the 49ers this week. I'm not as certain with the Eagles, but yeah, I'm sticking with them at number 3. They're no longer number 2 because the Chiefs have to be at number 2. Like I mentioned with Mahomes, they've gone 5 on the bounce. They're getting the wins. They're almost wrapped up the AFC West, their division. And if they do get the win this week, as you've mentioned, Paul, that's pretty much it, done and dusted for the division. I do think that's going to be a challenge, by the way. But I've got to put them ahead of the Eagles because they're finding ways to get it done. They've added Mecole Hardman now. Do I think that's a good add? I'm not sure. I don't think that's the answer to their issues. I think he'll add something, though. I think he'll make them better than what they are right now, but still not what I was hoping for. Only time will tell. But again, they got a bit of a run game this year, and the D is a lot stronger. So all this is stuff that I like to see. And as I touched upon on the quarterbacks, I trust Mahomes when it comes down to crunch time. But number 1, 49ers. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong on Sunday, but they should have still won the game. They lost Williams for part of the game, McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel for most of the game. And they were playing probably the best defense in the league, arguably the best defense in the league. Horrible conditions, West Coast team coming across the country. Everything was against them. And they were a 27-yard field goal, whatever it was, 30-odd yard field goal away from coming out of that with a win. I think it's a good result for the 49ers. I think getting a loss on that record, as I mentioned last week, it just stops that talk. Are you going to go 16-0? Are you going to be the only undefeated team? It's just added pressure that isn't needed. You don't need to add pressure in the NFL. There's enough pressure already there. So even though I feel they should have won the game, I think it's a blessing in disguise that they did lose that game. And even more of a blessing that all 3 of them seem to be okay. No long-term injuries, which is huge. Because I remember watching the game, and what were we talking about last week? You just got to get through the game unscathed. And then you just see Samuel, Williams, McCaffrey all go down, and we're like, right, is that the end of the 49ers season almost this year? We'll say they'll get close, but they won't beat the Eagles if they get there, like a bit like last year. But yeah, I still like where they are. They're my number 1. What about you, Jay? What's your top 5?
Yeah, so again, a little bit of a shake-up. Last week I had Dolphins at 5, Bills at 4, Chiefs at 3, Eagles 2, 49ers at 1. The Bills obviously won on Sunday, but they've dropped out of my top 5. I think there's a lot of things to question with the Bills, so they drop out. Number 5, Detroit Lions. I think this podcast has basically been the Detroit Lions appreciation show so far. So I haven't got much to add other than they're playing at a much higher level on D than they were last year, and that's been significant for them. But you look at this offense, and it is quietly stacked. I mean, some of these players are like becoming some of my favorite players in the league. I'm going to say his name again. Sam Laporta, Iowa tight end. He is exactly what this team is. Just, attitude, gets it done. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But Josh Reynolds, I mean, it was an amazing stat that they said on Sunday during the game. He had 19 receptions, and all of them had been either a first down or a touchdown. So I'm guessing he's going to get some extra attention on the field now. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot more that I can add to what we've already spent basically the whole of the podcast saying. The Lions are coming, and what a great game this week we have. Really good game. At number 4 is the Miami Dolphins. As I said, really, with Tua's rankings in the quarterback top 5, they've had a lot of gimmies in the last few weeks after getting annihilated by the Bills. I had the same thought as you, Rob. I was like, well, how can I have the Dolphins above the Bills based on, the head-to-head matchup we've already seen? But I'm going to go on the view that it's about the 6 weeks. The Bills have been disappointing over the last 2 weeks. The Dolphins have done what they've had to do. It's more that the Bills have dropped down than the Dolphins have moved up. So yeah, they're at 4. Dropping down 1 spot is the Philadelphia Eagles. As Paul said, the trenches are elite. The offensive line, all time, still in my book. I think what we're starting to see, though, is because the passing game is a bit volatile, teams are starting to maybe, start to sell out on the run a bit. And I think the thing that keeps going unnoticed is the fact that the Eagles' defense can't stop giving up passing yards. And I don't really understand why. Is it because they've changed coordinator, on the offense and the defense? And, we're in week 6. So in week 16, maybe this isn't a problem anymore. But it's a problem right now. And it's been a problem every week. And, I mean, what bigger test do you get this week than the Dolphins? That's going to be very interesting this week. But they up until now they were perfect. They were getting the job done rather than dominating.
Yeah. And
they should have won this game last week. There's just something not quite right with them right now. And, we're going into week 7, so plenty of time to clean it up. At 2, moving up 1 place, is the Kansas City Chiefs. As you said, Rob, they're on a 5-game winning streak now. They could be 6-0 if their receivers don't have an all-time fail in week 1. I have a lot of question marks about Nagy, the OC. He's a gadget guy. And I think that what we're seeing is an offense that doesn't really flow. And like I said, we're starting to lean on Mahomes a little bit too much, in my opinion. Yes, we've got the run game. Yes, we've got the defense. But I'd be interested to see how those elements work against a top-tier team like the Eagles, like the 49ers. I'm just not quite sold on them being the best team in the NFL yet, which means that for a 3rd week running, the 49ers do stay at number 1 in my rankings. As you both said, anything that could have gone wrong went wrong in that game. Injuries, you could say the elements. But Brock didn't play well. He was under duress a lot, but he also missed a lot of throws. But when it came down to it, what I took promise from was the final drive. not only did Brock deliver, but Brandon Ayuk had a huge play on that drive where he, in typical Ayuk fashion, separated, probably about 10 yards away. And then as soon as he caught it, he reversed and took it another 15 yards. And that really kind of ignited that drive. I was sitting there when they were about to take the kick, and all I could think was, we don't deserve this. And then I was thinking, I mean, is this good that we're going to win this game that we don't deserve? I mean, that's the heart of what champions do, isn't it? But I think on this occasion, I'm happy that we lost this game, because I said last week this could be a trap. And had Deshaun Watson been available, I would have picked the Browns. It turns out, even with PJ Tucker trying to lose the game, the Browns were the better team on the day. But the reason I think this is a good win is I just think the 49ers were starting to feel themselves a little bit too much in what I was seeing after the Cowboys game. And this should ground them. This should be really a good loss. Fred Warner on his podcast said this week, I forgot how losing felt, and I don't want to feel that again. So I think that just helps the fact that we lost this game, maybe feeling ourselves too much, and can just reset and remember, any given Sunday, if you're not on it, you will lose. But for now, they stay as number one.
Okay, so now, before we go on to our picks, Jay, do you want to give us the updated standings where we are through 6 weeks?
Yes. So Paul has been knocking on the door of joining the 60% win rate club, and he is in. 56 wins, 37 losses is good for 60.2% win rate. I am then in second with 60 wins, 33 losses at a 64.5% win rate. And Rob remains at number one, 62 wins, 31 losses. That is a 66.7% win rate.
All right.
So once again, we continue to rise.
And we're currently ahead of a couple of people that I believe you made aware of that on Instagram over the week as well, Jay. So I need to let them know.
We're ahead of a lot of people, I believe. So
good stuff. Good stuff. May well it continue. Right. So going into week 7, Las Vegas Raiders at the Chicago Bears. Paul, who you got?
I can't believe I'm saying it, but no, and I'm not going to do it again. I'm going with the Raiders. Justin Fields, my friend, is not going to play, and it's the guy Bajan, whatever he's called. They're struggling as it is, the Bears, and the Raiders will win this game.
Yeah, it's looking like it's a game of the backup quarterbacks, isn't it? You got Hoyer against Bajan. It's a horrible game to pick, but as I learned last Sunday, is you're not going to have a lot of joy if you back the Bears. The Raiders, they have more skill positions available. They got Devontae Adams. I back Hoyer more. He can produce the odd performance. He has shown us over the years he's got a little bit in him. And this Bears defense doesn't sort of send chills down my spine or anything like that. I'm not scared of this defense. Again, Adams, Crosby, them two players alone, I think, will just have a bit too much. So I'm going with the Raiders. What about you, Jay?
Oh, no. This is a horrible game to pick. Everything about it. Backup v backup. West Coast team playing in the 1 o'clock window. But how can I back the Bears? How can I back them? I can't. So I'm gonna ride with who I think is more talented, and I think it is the Raiders. But I am very skeptical about how this team will prepare for this game, given the coaching inadequacies. But yeah, rolling with another ghost of 49ers past, Brian Hoyer, Raiders win.
Awesome. Right, next game, Cleveland Browns at the Indianapolis Colts. Paul, who you got?
I really want to pick the Colts. No
one's stopping you.
I know. You know what? Yeah, I'm not changing my mind. I'm going with the Colts. I think the Browns are going to have a bit of a letdown. The Colts do have quite a balanced attack. They can throw the ball a bit. They can definitely run the ball. Cleveland can't move the ball with PJ Walker as quarterback. And I believe it is still PJ Walker at quarterback. Yeah, screw it. I'm going with the Colts.
What if Deshaun Watson plays, Paul? Because it is up in the air. Would that change your mind?
Yes. Then I would go Browns. Yeah, thanks for the heads up. I didn't think it was close.
It's unlikely, but it's possible. So they're being a bit vague about it.
Okay.
So for me, yeah, I see what you're saying in terms of sort of catch them out after a big win. I'm more concerned about that, though, with offenses. When offenses get a bit full of themselves, then they can usually trip themselves up. For defenses, when they're feeling full of themselves, they love getting after the quarterback. They love making plays. That's how I view it, anyway. I see this Cleveland Brown defense having a day against the Colts. I think the defense could win the game and score more points than the offense. It wouldn't surprise me. I'm going with the Cleveland win, irrelevant of who's at quarterback. They're just going to have too much. They'll be able to run the ball better than what they did last week against the 49ers, which wasn't terrible, but yeah, wasn't great. And yeah, I just see the defense taking over once again on the crest of a wave right now. So Cleveland win. What about you, Jay?
I believe that the Browns defense can win this game. I believe that the Browns offense can lose this game. PJ Walker had 2 interceptions that were basically both pick sixes almost, but he should have had 2 more. He had one dropped, I think, on one of those important drives at the end when they got a field goal. I don't know what he is thinking. Like, he is a true backup. So that scares me a lot. Minshew Mania. My good friend Minshew Mania. No, I'm going to take the Browns. I think the defense is on a historic run, and hopefully PJ Walker will be more careful with the ball this week. If he is, they'll definitely win this game. So yeah, I will ride with the Browns.
Buffalo Bills at the New England Patriots. Paul, who you got?
Yeah, I can't possibly pick the Patriots. Just by default, the Bills. The Bills just don't have any injuries to Allen or Diggs or Jay's friend Gabe Davis. Would be critical for them. Yeah, Bills win.
Yeah, I've got to follow suit there. Bills got beat so many times by the Pats over the last 20 years. They just love these opportunities to put another loss under Belichick. And they're going to be even more keen to go into Foxborough this week and get a win. I don't see the Pats having enough. The injuries they've got, Gonzalez, Judah, it's too much. They didn't have enough as it was, and that's probably their 2 best defensive, or 2 of their better defensive players out. Allen will be able to throw it. There's not going to be any issues. I see the Bills comfortably winning this game. What about you, Jay?
At the risk of being on freezing cold takes, I'm just going to say it. The Patriots suck. They suck. The Bills can play as bad as they want this week. They'll still win but as you said, Rob, I think that the Bills love playing the Patriots, and it wouldn't surprise me if they do absolutely annihilate them. But either way, Bills win. Too much talent. The Patriots defense is depleted. Even when it's at its best, it's too slow for 2023 NFL.
Cool. Washington Commanders at the New York Giants. Paul, who are you picking?
My friend Sam Howell is going to score more points than, I think it's still Tyrod Taylor. Although they were actually fairly impressive against the Bills, but they've had 5 sacks this season, the Giants. And that's how you beat Washington, is you pressure Sam. And they're not doing it so far this year, the Giants. So I trust my friend Sam Howell more to score more points than the New York Giants. Commanders will win.
Awesome. I'm also going with the Commanders. See, the Giants have lost another O-lineman earlier today. So I think that's about 3 starting O-linemen out at the moment. It was a bad O-line already. And now they're going to come up against this front 7 of Commanders. It could be a long day for the Giants offense. I'm going with a Commanders win. Don't think it's going to be straightforward. I see it being a reasonably close game, quite a low scoring game, but I'm going with a Commanders win. And you, Jake?
So last week was mission stop Bijan Robinson. This week is mission stop Saquon Barkley, and you win the game.
Yep.
And I think they will. The Giants defensively have actually been pretty good. Not like top 5 or anything, but they've been pretty good. But the offense has really made it difficult to be good for a whole game. I mean, I remember, going back to when they played the 49ers, that game was close for a while because of the defense. Last week, the game, I mean, they'd shut out the Bills until the 4th quarter. I do feel they were robbed last week, but they won't be robbed this week. The Commanders will win, and I think they'll win reasonably well in the end.
Cool. Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Bucks. Who you got, Paul?
I got the Bucks. Bounce back game for the Bucks. A bit of a humbling experience to go up against like the elite of the NFC in Detroit. Can't believe I'm saying that, elite of the conference, Detroit. But yeah, reminded the Bucks of sort of the level that they're at. They might win their division, but they're not going anywhere further than that. But within their division, against the Falcons, they're a better team than the Falcons. I think the Falcons should just play Wildcat with Bijan Robinson every snap. I think that's the way forward for them. Desmond Ridder had his moment, lost me my bet against the Texans when he somehow decided he was going to have a game-winning drive. But yeah, Desmond Ridder is who he is, and they're going to lose. He's going to lose, and the Falcons will lose to the Bucks this week.
I've also gone with the Bucks. Like you said, bounce back game, playing at home. The Bucks might not be what they were, but they still have a lot of skilled players. They've got Mike Evans, had a couple of drops last week, which was not something you normally see from Evans. Got Godwin. They've got elite wide receivers. I think Mayfield will manage to get it to them, although this Atlanta secondary, I think it's Alford, isn't it? He's special. He's really good. But I see the skilled players to go with the D. D is just as good as it's always been. Levante David, Devin White, Vita Vea coming up the gut. Like, these are elite players, and I think they'll just have a bit too much for Atlanta. Divisional game, and I think the Bucks come out with the win. Who you got, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, I think it possibly will be a close game. I mean, these two teams are going really nowhere, but then they're not like bottom barrel. They're kind of in the worst place. They're average or below average, where they're not going to win a playoff game. They might not even make the playoffs, and they're not going to get a great pick for the privilege of that. I backed Desmond Ridder last week, and what is it that they say? If you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, that's kind of the first signs of insanity. So definitely taking the Bucs this week. I do think the Bucs are the better overall team, and I certainly trust Baker Mayfield, of all people, more than Desmond Ridder. So Buccaneers bounce back.
Okay. Detroit Lions at the Baltimore Ravens. Paul, nice easy one for you. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, I loved it. Love this game. Like, this to me is like, it's so hard to call, but I'm going to go with my gut and the matchup. So what I mean by the matchup is the Ravens D is really, really good. And the Ravens are not playing balanced offense. But if they can just transition a little bit into passing the ball more effectively, there was a couple of signs of that last week in London. But when they got down to the red zone, they ran the ball and ran the ball and ran the ball again, and they got shut down. I think they were 1 of 5 in the red zone, and still was enough to beat the Titans, who have different problems. The Lions don't have a running game. Well, they do have a running game, but their running backs are all hurt. That's a big, big problem against Baltimore. I've got big confidence in the Lions moving forward. However, I think they drop this game to the Ravens and Baltimore win this game.
Okay. Who do you either of you know who the backup running back or the backup running back is behind Gibbs and Montgomery? I couldn't think.
So last week it was Craig Reynolds, who I believe had 10 carries for 15 yards.
Okay. Yeah, this game is tough. You know, it'd be really hypocritical of me, or all of us, saying how amazing Detroit have been this year, and then when it comes to picks, the team that they're playing against. The Ravens are a hard team to judge. They played well against the Titans, but I think the Titans almost beat themselves. They did exactly what the Bills did. They went over on the Friday or Saturday. So they were clearly playing on a different time zone. How will the Ravens deal with coming back from London this week? So that's going to be quite disruptive in terms of their preparation. The running back is the biggest concern for me. If Montgomery was healthy, I would say the Detroit Lions will win this game. Even if Gibbs was healthy, I would say Lions would win. And Ravens are 3-point favourites. I'm going to go with Detroit win. Who you got, Jay?
Interesting. So someone got very lucky to not be in my step up, and that's Todd Monken, the Baltimore offensive coordinator. What I saw in London was a little bit odd last week. Like, he was happy for Lamar to throw until they got to the red zone, and then they just wanted to run, ultra conservative, which didn't really make any sense. You got Lamar in a flow, and then you were like, okay, no more throwing. Also, the use of some of these weapons. I mean, for basically 95% of the plays on offense, Zay Flowers is lined up on the outside. Now, I know he's fast, but he's not the tallest. And he's not Tyreek Hill. Let's put it that way. So to utilize a player like that, it kind of symbolizes what this offense is doing at the moment. They're not maximizing what they've got. They're kind of just, disjointed.
Yeah.
And what I think we've seen with the Ravens in a lot of these games is they have good patches, but then the offense breaks. And we saw that again in this third quarter against the Titans. Lamar threw the interception, so he's got to be accountable for that. But I then look at the play and say, well, what was the play? It was a 10-yard hitch on the outside. I don't know if they've got the receivers to run plays like that. Granted, it wasn't a good ball, but I'm just not sure. That's what scares me with this game is how will the Ravens be consistent on offense? This is a really, really tricky one. This is a game I'm probably going to watch in full, to be honest.
Point toss.
This is one where I'm just going to have to go with my gut and just say I'm going to go with the Ravens. They're at home. The defense is balling. And I'm really intrigued to see how Jared Goff and this offense goes up against this Ravens defense. But I'm going to edge with the Ravens. Great game, though.
Yeah, what a game. Right, next game. Pittsburgh Steelers at the LA Rams. Paul, who you got? Another intriguing game.
Yeah, the Steelers... I heard this today and it surprised me that Tomlin is 2-8 on the West Coast as the Steelers head coach. And yeah, I think this is a bad matchup for my Steelers. Like, the weakness that we have on D would be the corners and the coverage. And that's the strength of the Rams, would be their passing game and their receivers, who are a huge problem. The Rams, if they can just hold up enough to protect Stafford so he can get rid of the ball, and I think even if they don't protect him enough, the Rams will adapt with McVay as the play caller, and he'll get him into really, really quick reads and quick hitting plays to Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Yeah, this is a bad matchup for the Steelers. 2-8 on the West Coast. Steelers are going to lose this game. Rams win it.
Yeah, my notes exactly the same thing. Wide receiver against cornerback. This is not a good matchup for the Steelers. However, D-line, O-line, it's a great matchup. And that is what is going to keep this close, I think, for quite a while. But I see the Rams just coming through. I think they're 7-point favourites. I think that's too much with this Steelers defense. 7 points is always going to be a lot with that defense. But I see Stafford, Nacua, Kupp, McVay having just a bit too much. They are without the running back. It's Kyron Williams, isn't it? Played pretty well last week, but I see the Rams just finding a way to eke out the win. What about you, Jake?
So I think this week is the return of Deontay Johnson for the Steelers.
Yeah.
Is Cam Hayward back yet? Or
I have not heard that.
Yeah.
Let me just hold on.
Yeah, I'll have a quick look.
So no Kyron Williams for the Rams, although I'm not sure that will matter because I think the Steelers play the run pretty well. I do think it's a bad matchup in terms of the Steelers secondary against a lot of speed at receiver. An interesting scheme, I've got to say, very interesting offensive scheme that McVay has put together this year. And Stafford is still really good. He's still really good. He can make all the throws if he's given the time. So a couple of question marks there, but I think the Rams will edge it just. Okay. But in typical Steeler fashion, you throw that sort of stat out. Oh, they're 2-8 on the West Coast. Watch what will happen.
Yeah. Nice. So next game, Arizona Cardinals at the Seattle Seahawks. Paul, what are you saying on that one?
I think the Cardinals are finding their level. The Seahawks, I picked them to beat the Bengals last week, and they played a really good game. Watching that game back, they outgained the Bengals, gained a heck of a lot of yards, but Geno didn't come up big in the moment. He won't be needed to come up big in the moment against Arizona. He just needs to not lose the game because the talent disparity is huge, Seattle versus Arizona. Seattle going to win. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but Seattle will win this game. They need to win this game to keep up with the 49ers, and they will.
Yeah, watching the Seattle Bengals game, I thought it would be more of a comfortable win for the Bengals heading into that game, and I was very impressed with the Seattle Seahawks. Their secondary is legit. They're going to shut down a lot of good teams this year. Obviously, coaching-wise, Pete Carroll, one of the best there's been. I see them just having too much, for the Cardinals, that bubble was burst almost that they had for the first few weeks, even though they didn't have a great win-loss record. They were in close games, or it felt close anyway, in a lot of them. Divisional matchup, Seattle win for me. What about you, Jack?
Yeah, I think you nailed it, Rob. I think the resolve of this team has just started to fade away. And, fair enough, that every week they are the less talented team. It's a new head coach. Seattle will have too much. Seattle will win this game.
Lovely. So, next game, Green Bay Packers at the Denver Broncos. Paul, who are you picking?
I am going to go back to them, despite them constantly letting me down. I'm going to pick the Packers to beat the Broncos. The Broncos are in total meltdown, and the Packers should have beat the Raiders if not for that play. The horse collar on Christian Watson running through for the touchdown. Yeah, the Packers. Jordan Love just needs to hand the ball off. If Aaron Jones is back, that's big for Green Bay. Denver will find a way to hand you the game. Just don't lose the game, Jordan. Just manage the game, and you'll find Denver will find a way to give it to you. Green Bay win.
Yeah, so as of yesterday, I haven't seen what the status was today, but Aaron Jones was limited as of yesterday. So
Yep.
I don't think they're confident he will be playing. But again, he's got another 2 days, so we'll see what happens. I don't think it matters. I think this Denver run D could make Dillon look like an all-pro. So I think whoever's at running back, you just run. I haven't seen any team struggle running against this Denver Broncos defense. So I see Green Bay just having a bit too much. Denver are in disarray since that 70-20 game. Obviously got rid of Gregory. They've got rid of Clark now. And yeah, the rest of this season is just going to be, I think, getting players off of that roster. And they're already looking at, right, what can we do for next year? So I'm going with a Green Bay win. And you, Jack?
This is another one of those games where don't even think about placing any sort of wager on.
Mm-hmm.
Two teams going nowhere. A little bit scared to back the Packers after what I saw against the Raiders. But at the same time, the Broncos offense was horrible to watch against the Chiefs. Russell Wilson and his wristband that has 4,000 plays written on them. Do any of them actually get your receivers open, Sean Payton? Maybe 3 when the game's over? God, this is a really tricky one. I mean, Denver held the Chiefs to, what was it, 16?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's ride one time with the Broncos.
All right.
Don't feel good about it, but I'm going to pick the Broncos.
Okay. Then we've got the LA Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs. What a game. Paul, who you got?
Chiefs. Chargers. I was very, very unimpressed with the Chargers watching them back against the Cowboys. They just find a way to disappoint you in a different way each week. They should, when you stack up these teams talent-wise, they should be every year far closer to the Chiefs, and they find a way to get in their own way and not be close enough to the Chiefs. Yeah, the Chiefs will beat the Chargers.
So, yeah, when I was looking at this game, it just seems whenever I watch this game, usually the Chargers always give the Chiefs a solid matchup, a tough matchup. And I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this game. There's no reason, there's no stats I can give you that are going to make that to justify my pick. Again, maybe this is just my gut telling me the Chargers have the players, which I could say this every week. But this is a divisional matchup. Their players do tend to turn up when they play the Chiefs. They play them hard. The Chiefs didn't play that good against a very bad Denver team last week. If that game would have been the Chargers, I think, well, it would have been a completely different outcome. So I'm going with the Chargers to win. And yeah, what about you, Jay?
I mean, I agree with both your points of view. Like, the Chargers definitely give the Chiefs a game every time, and they've definitely lost more than they should have, which sums up the Chargers, right? We just can't trust them. I don't know if I'm butchering this stat, but I think the stat is Mahomes is something like 28-3 against the AFC West. He's never lost to the Broncos. He's lost once to the Raiders, and I believe he's lost maybe twice to the Chargers. The problem is with the Chargers, I just can't back their coaching. And I'm starting to lose faith in Kellen Moore as well. Another OC that doesn't understand or doesn't clearly know what a quarterback sneak is, because on every 4th and 1, it's play action. And that's, at some point, Herbert's just got to turn around and say, look, just give me the ball and I will Jalen Hurts it for 1 yard. I just can't trust the Chargers on the basis of their coaching. So I'm going to roll with Mahomes and the Chiefs.
Okay. Next game, Miami Dolphins at the Philadelphia Eagles. Another easy one for you to start off with, Paul.
So I'm going to go back to my thought process with the Ravens and the Lions. I'm going to go to the matchup. The Eagles have the 20th ranked pass D in the NFL. They do have a great D line. That worries me. But Miami, Jalen Ramsey practiced in full on yesterday. I'm going to give Miami another shot. I've looked it up. The weather's okay. Like there's a bit of wind. There's 15-mile-an-hour winds. I know we're 3 days out from it, but I'm going to go with Miami. Miami lost the game to Buffalo because they ran into Buffalo on a going day with Josh Allen. Philadelphia haven't been on a going day on offense so far this year. So if Miami are at 75% of what they're capable of on offense, I think they've got enough to score more points than the Eagles. Just from the matchup, the Dolphins receivers against 20th ranked pass D. Jalen Ramsey comes back. Can he shut down AJ Brown? No, but can the Dolphins do enough to slow down AJ Brown? No, but I think they'll score more points than the Eagles. So one more time, call me an idiot, but I'm going back with the Dolphins in a big matchup.
You're an idiot. The Eagles are going to win. Now I've got it. You're right. It's
Match.
Yeah, the matchup is. It says good for the Dolphins. I'm looking at this and I see the Eagles running it and running it and running it and not letting the Dolphins to have many possessions. Their O-line will allow them to do that. The strength of this Dolphins team is, defense is the pass rush. And they're lucky where more often than not they're up. So teams have to take out the run and throw. And that's perfect for the pass rush. They were down 14-0 against the Carolina Panthers. The defense has a lot of holes in it. Ramsey will make them better, but he's not going to fix everything. There's still going to be gaps. Eagles got punched in the face last week. They're going to be out at home. The weather is starting to change. It's going to be a little bit chilly, I would imagine, in Philadelphia this weekend. Not too cold, but not Miami weather, that's for sure. I have huge question marks with Tua. This game will tell me a lot. Let's see where Tua is at when it matters. Not against Carolina, not against Denver, not against this New England team, etc. Let's see how you do against this Eagles D, because they're going to be out to prove a point. I cannot see the Eagles single covering Tyreek Hill. I don't understand why any team does it. Slay is a good corner. They've got to. They will double him. They're going to take him out and they're going to say, right, run on us with Mostert, get Waddle to beat us, which both of them could. Don't get me wrong, but I just see the Eagles having long drive after long drive, with Hurts running it, with Swift running it, and then the play action will open up. And AJ Brown is elite, not many better in the last 10 years than him. So I'm going with an Eagles win. Right. So Jay, who are you picking?
Can I just say that I feel really sorry for Mike Vrabel, who every week has to watch AJ Brown dominate. And I remember when AJ Brown got traded, it was during a draft, and there's a visual of Mike Vrabel literally just standing there shaking his head in disbelief, in pure anger at what they had just done. And that's not paid off for them at all. Nope. Do not trade your superstar players that have proven themselves. Pay them. All right, back to this game. Can the Dolphins stop the run? Can the Eagles stop the pass in Philadelphia? It's a difficult one, but I just trust the Dolphins to execute more than I trust the Eagles to execute right now. Maybe the Eagles will bounce back this week, but I'm going to give the Dolphins a chance. The Dolphins win.
Okay. And last game of the week is the 49ers at the Vikings. Paul, who you got?
Yeah, the 49ers, I trust to win this game more than the Vikings. The Vikings, in typical Viking style, will make it closer than what it possibly should be. The 49ers will just come through the game with no more big injuries. If Trent Williams is at all a doubt, just don't play him. Get through this game. Play Mason at running back over McCaffrey. The Vikings will find a way to lose this game by 3. So if you play McCaffrey, I think this is just have your defense just take over and overwhelm Kirk Cousins. He will gift wrap the game to you. No Jefferson. I don't think there's any chance for the Vikings. 49ers win. Close game.
So, yeah, I'm not sure what the status is on all 3 of the guys. From what I understand, Debo and Trent are pretty much good to go. They're not, if anything, McCaffrey's the one that is still not that bad, but it might be next week where he's back as opposed to this week. If it was a big game, probably he'd be back this week. And obviously the Vikings don't have Jefferson. We saw what they looked like without Jefferson last week against the elite Chicago Bears team. I see the 49ers absolutely hammering the Vikings this week. I think the spread is 7 points. I will be placing some money on that. I can assure you that. Even if they don't play McCaffrey, it's one of them. Again, I sound like a broken record, but when a good team gets beat, I don't want to play them the next week. And this 49ers is a good team. And the offense got not embarrassed, but they got shown up a little bit. They put up 30 points or more in every game up until last week. I think Shanahan, just because he's an alpha, he'll want to go out and show that was a blip. That was one game. And this Vikings team have nothing to show. They've got nothing. Cousins is going to get hit over and over and over again. Without Jefferson, they're just toothless, I'm afraid. And yeah, I can't see any way that this game doesn't end up being a 49ers win comfortably. Not even the elements can make an impact. It's going to be in a dome. So yeah. What about you, Jay?
So the Browns gave you a blueprint of maybe how to stop this offense. But in order to stop this offense with that blueprint, you've got to have the horses in the stable to run that race. And I don't think that this Vikings defense can do that. A lot went wrong last week. And I think there will be extra focus this week. And I just go back to what Fred Warner said. I forgot how it felt to lose, and I don't want to feel that way again. So, reset week, bounce back, 49ers win.
Awesome. Right, so that's the picks for this week. There's 6 teams on bye this week. So that's all the games.